recently, and something that she said to me, and I am almost quoting this word for word, is, it's like every time I grow, it pushes my partner away. Wow. Just wow, because that is something I want to talk about. It's an important thing to talk about. So listen, when we start moving beyond our self-limiting beliefs, when we start examining and changing toxic patterns and behaviors in our life and embracing a vision of possibility, there are really only two things that can happen in terms of its effect on the people around us. The first, which is great, is that it inspires other people. And the second is that it threatens them, which isn't so great. So the thing that determines whether somebody is inspired or threatened by your growth is this: the degree to which they have themselves started to move beyond their own self-limiting beliefs and embrace a vision of what is possible for their own life. That's it. So the degree to which someone has already started on that journey, and in fact, whether they have or whether they haven't, is what determines whether they are inspired by you and your growth or whether they are threatened by you and your growth. Because if you are already on that journey yourself, if you are already pushing right up close to your growth edges, if you are looking your fear in the eye and choosing to be somebody else, first of all, congratulations, that's amazing. Second of all, the only natural response when you see somebody else who is doing the same thing and who is perhaps further down that road than you are, the only natural response is for you to feel inspired, because you are believing in possibility and they are showing you what's possible. But if you are still allowing yourself to be defined by your fear, if you are still trapped inside your own self-limiting beliefs, if you are still in the fortress of your own self-doubt, and that is governing the choices that you make, the person that you show up as, if your fear and limiting beliefs are deciding the person that you are being in the world, then the only natural response when you see somebody else who has moved beyond that, who has gone through that onto the other side, is for you to feel threatened. So when I say that can make people feel threatened, what is it that I'm actually talking about? Because we know that it's not who you really are. We know that when you or when somebody is threatened by the growth, by somebody else stepping into their power, by somebody else being authentic and saying, look, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, and you can take it or you can leave it. When other people are threatened by that, it's not who they really are, because who we really are is universal consciousness expressing itself in human form. That's the truth. Who we really are is boundless energy. But the thing that is being threatened are your own self-limiting beliefs. Because if the limiting beliefs that you held, I'm just going to use you from now on, or say it's someone else in your life, whatever. If the limiting beliefs that you held about yourself were true, then it would never be possible for anybody to overcome themselves. Because if what you believed was universally true and could not be challenged, then nobody would ever step into their power. Nobody would ever move beyond their fear. But it's not true. It's just a belief. And a belief is just a thought that you think over and over and over and over and over again. So you feel threatened, or let's say precisely that your own self-limiting beliefs about yourself and your life feel threatened when you see somebody else who has moved beyond theirs. What is that really? Where is that coming from? Because like I just said, it's not coming from who you really are. It's not coming from here. It's coming from your ego. Our ego gets very active, or let me say this, our stress response can be activated, ignited when there is physical danger, so danger to our physical selves, or when there is danger to the identified self, when there is danger to the person that you think that you are. And that is what is threatened when you see somebody else shining their light. Because your ego is all about your sense of self, all about keeping what you have formulated and identified yourself to be, which is basically enmeshed with the limiting beliefs you hold about yourself. Its job is to reinforce itself. So when your ego goes into like what I call an ego uproar, you go into two modes primarily, one of having to prove something and one of having to protect something. So your ego wants to prove all the reasons why you can't have what that person has, or the reasons why you can't do what that person does. So you'll get all sorts of things like, well, it's all right for her because she's just naturally confident. Well, let me tell you, I'm not. I had to learn to be confident. I had to learn to sit here and share my knowledge connected to my authentic self. That is something I've learned. That is a journey that I've been on. Oh my God, I will tell you about that another time. Or we might say, oh, well, it's all right for him because he didn't have the past that I had. He had an easy life. She didn't have trauma. She didn't get divorced. She didn't have a stepdad that was an asshole. Or she's got loads of money and I don't. Whatever. You'll come up with all sorts of excuses to justify, or your ego will, to justify why something is possible for another person, but it ain't possible for you. And it's bollocks. The other thing, so we've got having to prove and having to protect. So the other thing your ego will do is have to protect you. Sorry, my screen just went dark. Protect you and your own self-limiting beliefs. So one thing it does is to disconnect from the person who is threatening it. And when I say that, I mean literally to shut off your energy, to disconnect your energy from the person who is threatening your limiting beliefs. Because if you allowed your energies to meld, if you allowed yourself to be influenced by the higher vibration, and it is a really high vibration of somebody who is stepping outside of their fear and outside of their ego, if you allowed yourself to be influenced by that, it would change you. It would open that little crack in your mind that says you actually get to choose who you are. You get to choose, no one else. But your ego cannot stand that. It cannot have that. So it shuts off. It shuts off. You know, egos only reconcile with egos. Egos only hang out with egos. You know, egos have parties with other egos. They drink Prosecco with other egos. They don't do it with people who are vibrating above the limits of their ego. They don't do that. So your ego has a field day when someone else is stuck and small and afraid. And it has an uproar, and I mean a bad kind of like, holy shit, what is happening? When you are in the company of someone who is not defining themselves by their ego. So listen, a big piece I want to talk about around this is it is all just information, right? So let's not demonize it. Let's not turn this feeling into another thing that you have to develop all sorts of weird and wonderful and toxic coping mechanisms in order to run away from the fact that you feel something that you are uncomfortable feeling. If you feel threatened by the growth, or if you feel threatened by somebody else who is shining their light and standing in their truth, because you haven't learned how to do that yet for yourself, if that is you, let's just say it is, just be real with yourself. Like, there is no shame. We are all humans on a human journey, and all of us are attempting to break outside of the confines of our ego and be our authentic selves. Let people fully see us. And it's really, really, really fucking scary. So have no judgment. Don't judge yourself for that. You're just human, and it's just information. And if you use that information in the right way, then it becomes fuel for your transformation. But if you resist it, if you let the shame shut you down, then it becomes something that you need to run away from. And when you run away from your feelings, you run away from yourself. So it's never a good thing. So let's say that's you. Let's say that you feel threatened when someone else is stepping into their power. And by the way, it's a different thing. This is really important. You might look at somebody else on TV, someone that's famous or someone you don't know, and be able to be inspired by them. Okay, they're shining their light, and that's great. But when it's your best mate, or when it's your partner, that gets uncomfortable. And do you know why that is? Do you know why there is that massive difference? It's because you don't think you're equal to that person on TV or that person that you don't know. You have given them special qualities. Again, your ego proving why it's possible for them but not for you. You've made them extraordinary. But when it's your best mate, well, you know that person, and you know that they are no better than you. They're no different to you. You know that they have issues, you know that they've had problems, and still they're rising. And so that really makes you reconcile with your own limiting beliefs, because they're so close to you that they're equal. And then there is a massive dissonance in your brain because that person isn't special. They might be special, but not in the way we're saying. That person isn't extraordinary. So, if that is you, accept the feeling. Acknowledge it to yourself. Lean into it. Learn from it. Feel it in your body. How do I feel? Where in my body do I feel this? How do I think when I feel this? How does this thought make me behave? How would I rather feel? What thoughts would I rather think? You know, so much fuel you can use for your growth if you just move towards your feelings, not running away from them. And you can't move towards them unless you acknowledge them. So, Instagram is annoying because I can only do 15 minutes and I'm already coming up to that. Maybe I've surpassed it. Anyway, can't waffle on anymore, but this is important. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you've had this experience. God knows I have. Let's open this out. This is a community I'm creating. I do not just want to give you guys monologues. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what's on your mind. I want to hear what experiences you have had, because I want to start conversations.